Shalom, welcome to this segment of Take 10 for Torah, where we take 10 minutes out of our day and learn Torah together. The subject that we're going to be looking at are Brachos HaShachar. Brachos HaShachar are the series of brachos that we make in the morning on the classic RCA ArtScroll Siddur. They're on page 18. They're the list of brachos that we say each and every morning. And we're going to be examining is the opinion of the Rambam and seeing it versus today's minhag, today's custom. The opinion of the Rambam and Brachos HaShachar differs greatly from what we find in just about every single synagogue across the entire world. And not only is it different from the Rambam's custom, which is fine because we see plenty of times that we don't follow the Rambam's custom, but what's interesting about this is how strongly the Rambam feels that the custom that we follow is not only incorrect, but is grossly wrong to follow. And the Rambam recognizes that the minhag is becoming part of the accepted view of the Jewish community, and is so adamant that it should be stopped, not only in his writings, not only in his son's writings, as we'll see, but also in the codification of the halacha in his Mishnah Torah. He spends so much time on the fact, for the Rambam, for us it seems just one or two lines, but he spends so much time on recognizing the upcoming minhag in Bnei Yisrael, the one that is spreading, and goes on not for really a halachic purpose of setting forth what the halacha is, but showing just that the minhag is wrong. And it's very, very interesting. The Rambam starts off, we're going to be looking at our source sheets. I hope you click on the source sheets. We're going to be starting off with source number 1. The Rambam explains, Kishetiknu chachamim divrei tfilos elu tiknu brachos acheros levarech osam b'chol yom. When the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah set up the tfilos, they also instituted certain blessings. What's interesting is the Rambam is categorizing these blessings not within the halachos of brachos, where they seemingly should be because they are brachos, but within the categories of tefillah. So these brachos really take on a role not only of blessings, but also of tefillah. And these are the brachos, and he goes on to list the brachos we see. And what's interesting, the Rambam quoting the language of the Gemara in brachos, this you can find throughout the 9th chapter of brachos. The Rambam says that he's quoting directly the Gemara, that the brachos should be said as you're obligated in them. For instance, the bracha of She'asa li kol tzarki, that Hashem fulfills all of my needs, is said when we put on our shoes, the final act of getting dressed. On getting dressed, when really we put on our last garment, we say Malbish Arumim, that Hashem clothes the naked. When we stand up in the morning, we say Pokeach Ivrim, that Hashem straightens out those that are bent over. And onwards and onwards we find these are how the brachos should be said, each bracha in its time. And the Rambam says as follows in source number 2, Shmonas brachos elu ein lahem seder. These brachos have no order. Now, they're not, the order that we see in the Siddur is not, they don't have to be said that way, as opposed to most other brachos. For instance, Shmon Esrei, or the brachos that surround Kriya Shema. Eller, he says, Ela mevarech kol achas mehen al davar shabracha bishvilo b'shaiso. Rather, one makes the bracha for what it's obligated on and during its time. Right? And then the Rambam goes on to give our explanation of when you do certain actions, that is when you make certain brachos. The Rambam then says, look at source number 3, and this is going to sound a little shocking. No go'am barov yirenu levarech brachos elu zu achar zu bebeis haKnesses ben yischayvu ben lo nischayvu behen. And the Rambam also feels that if one hasn't performed the action that the bracha is obligated in, that the bracha becomes obligated by, then one doesn't say that bracha. So, but the Rambam says that the shul gets up, and throughout all cities in Bnei Yisrael, we see that the chazan stands up and makes the brachos straight. And it's interesting because the Rambam says these brachos should only be said by way of the action that the bracha relies on. So if I don't put on shoes that day, for instance on Tisha B'Av or on Yom Kippur, I would not make She'asa li kol tzarki. I wouldn't make that bracha. The most famous case is the first bracha that we see listed in the Siddur, Hanosein lasech v'vino lafchin ben yomom ve'layla, that gives the rooster the ability to differentiate between day and night, praising Hashem for that. And most of us, we live in cities, we don't hear roosters going off in the morning, and therefore we're not obligated to make that bracha. That bracha the Gemara lists is when you hear the rooster crow, you recite this bracha. So for the chazan to stand up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning and make this bracha without hearing the rooster, says the Rambam, that's a mistake. And as we know, I can't make any brachos unless I'm obligated. I can't make the bracha on lightning unless I see lightning. I can't hear the weather forecast and hear that there's going to be lightning and make the bracha right then and there for later on. Or if I heard the lightning before, 2 hours later I can't make the bracha. The bracha goes on what is obligated. And that is what the Rambam has such a problem with seeing that the custom is coming about, which is nowadays accepted, that we do make those brachos. If you look at number 7, this is the Tshuvos of Rabbi Avraham ben Harambam. That's the Rambam's son, also the leader in Egypt at the time. And he goes on to explain his father's position, and even brings up the idea that these are brachos levatalos, that these brachos that the chazan is making are it's not only an incorrect minhag, but rather we know that when one recites a blessing, they're reciting God's name. And if you recite a blessing with no purpose, then you recited God's name in vain, which is a horrible sin. Most probably a violation of taking God's name in vain, one of the 613 mitzvos. Not something we want to be doing. And therefore, Rav Avraham ben Harambam, the Rambam's son, goes on and explains how grievous this sin is and how mistaken this minhag is. And the question is, how is it? Where do we find the machlokas? What's the basis of the argument between the Rambam, who says these brachos should only be said during their time, and our custom nowadays where the chazan gets up and recites them? And the answer is interesting. What I'd like to say the machlokas and the differing opinions stems on is the idea of what kind of brachos are these. If you look and you read on your own on sources 4 through 6, we'll find that there are 3 types of brachos, 3 categories of brachos. The first type is a brachas hanehenin, is a bracha on benefit that I'm going to receive. For instance, if I have a drink, I make a shahako. If I smell bisamim, I make a borei bisamim. All of these brachos are brachos what we call hanad, nehenin, brachos that I receive benefit from. There's another kind of bracha which is a brachas ha-mitzvah, which is a blessing that I make before I perform a mitzvah. Before I blow shofar, I make a bracha. Before I pick up my lulav, I make a bracha. The third category of bracha are what we call shevach vehodaya, praise and gratitude. Brachos that I make when events and episodes happen in my life that our rabbis tell us I must recognize with the praise of God. Lightning, the ocean. The question is, what type of brachos are brachos hashachar? The Rambam explains that these brachos are clearly brachos shevach vehodaya. And I cannot make a bracha shevach v'hodaya, the bracha on praise or on gratitude, unless I have what to have gratitude over. And if I didn't hear the rooster, I can't show my gratitude, I can't show my praise of God for creating a rooster that can differentiate between day and nighttime. I can't do that. And therefore I can't make that bracha. How do we understand it? I think if you look at source number 8, we find a telling Mishnah Berurah. And the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us that this bracha, interesting, these series of brachos are really brachos hanehenin. When I make a bracha of nosein l'sachve vina lavchem ben yom v'layla, that the rooster can differentiate, what I'm doing is I am really making a bracha on the benefit from which I get from that rooster. And when I make a bracha of shasali kol tzarki on my shoes, I'm making a bracha on the benefit I get from being fully dressed. And this is where the machlokas develops. The Mishnah Berurah says, since they're brachas hanehenin, and I'm still receiving benefit from the action, I'm still wearing my shoes when I get up at 9 in the morning as the chazan and recite these brachos in shul, therefore I can say it. The Rambam is going to say you cannot say it because these are brachos of shevach, of praise and thanksgiving. And I can't make brachos of praise and thanksgiving unless it's during the exact time that I have to give praise. I hope you enjoyed this shiur. If you didn't get so quickly, then listen again. Hopefully it'll become clear. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email pillows@bethjacob.org. Shalom.